Now when it comes to building a PC, you could go for something small, something mid-range like a mid-tower, or something colossal. But who said that having something small like the Tower 100 from Thermaltake means that you need to compromise on everything else? Well, not this time. Let's do this. I wish these files would transfer faster. Come on! Whoa, is that the FireCuda 510 NVMe drive with its blistering fast speeds of 3450 megabytes a second read, 3200 megabytes a second write, and capacities of up to 2 terabyte? I can have these files transferred in no time. And if I'm looking for the ultimate performance, I could even get the 4th generation FireCuda 520. I better check the link in the description to find out more details. When building a small form factor PC, generally in the past you would have sacrificed on performance because of the heat and the thermals that it can't exactly deal with. Well, that's not exactly the case anymore, as we're going to show you today. We're going to be putting a build together in the Tower 100 with some of the latest and greatest components that are really going to rival pretty much anything on the market. Whether you're gaming, whether you're streaming, this build is going to be able to do it all. So let's talk through the components first and foremost. So starting with the processor, if you're gaming, if you're streaming, this is going to be able to handle it, no sweat. So we've gone with the Ryzen 9 5900X. So we're talking 12 cores, 24 threads, and boost speeds of up to 4.8 gigahertz. I mean, that's going to be able to deal with anything you throw at it, whether it be playing Cyberpunk 2077, whether you'll be streaming it, whether you'll be playing Warzone, it's going to be able to handle absolutely everything. It also opens up other functionality such as PCI Express 4.0, which we will talk about a little bit later on. If you wanted to, because it is an unlocked processor, you can have the ability to overclock it or just simply set Precision Boost Overdrive to do its own thing, or even leave it at stock. You're not exactly going to struggle with 12 cores, 24 threads, up to 4.8 gigahertz. This is an absolute beast. Now, while I know you might not actually be able to buy some of these processors and other parts right now because of everything that's going on in the world, doesn't mean that you can't then make a well-informed decision, so when you do see these in stock, you're going to know exactly what to go for. To work in conjunction with that processor, we wanted to go for something, I guess, on the high end of the scale. And because we are going small form factor, we've gone with a mini ITX board, specifically the X570i AORUS Pro Wi-Fi. Firstly, it's got Wi-Fi. Secondly, it's got PCI Express 4.0 capabilities, and it's going to house our processor absolutely perfectly. So a little disclaimer, while this board is Ryzen 3000 ready, it's not necessarily going to be Ryzen 5000 ready. So depending on where you actually buy this board from, as well as any other X570 or B550 motherboard, you may actually have to do a BIOS update on it. So luckily on this board, it does have BIOS flashback, so you can simply do everything you need to do without the need for a previous generation processor, update the BIOS, and away you go. This motherboard also does have a very, very small amount of RGB on it, which is going to look fantastic in our case because of, well, the open kind of nature of it and the amount of glass on the case. But we will talk about that in a little bit as well. Now, to pair with our processor, we wanted some memory that was, going to match with it pretty fairly. So we've gone with the AORUS DDR4 4400 MHz 16 gig kit. It looks absolutely amazing, and of course, it has more RGB. So hopefully you're starting to see a little bit of a theme with this. For housing all of the latest games, including Call of Duty, which is probably going to take up all of the space on this, we've gone with a Seagate FireCuda 520 2 terabyte drive. This is an NVMe Gen 4 drive, so we're going to get blistering fast speeds without sacrificing on the capacity. Now, to keep our 5900X nice and cool, we've gone with the Dark Rock Pro 4. Has a 250 watt TDP, it looks absolutely amazing, and even though the size of the case is, I guess, pretty small in the grand scheme of things, this large cooler is still actually going to fit in here, which is one of the reasons why we chose it. We wanted to show that you could put some of the largest components inside one of the smallest cases. Now, when it comes to gaming and streaming, this is where the RTX 3090 comes in, and we've gone with the Gigabyte Gaming OC. It's kind of that lovely middle ground of offering you amazing value for money, getting the performance you need, and not skimping on the quality. Of course, if you are streaming, it has got the NVENC encoder on there, which is absolutely amazing at taking over all of the streaming side of things, so you can still really utilize everything that you need inside of a game. When it comes to ray tracing, of course, we have the RT cores to take care of absolutely everything. And with the 3090, you're not going to struggle, even on the most demanding games at the highest resolutions. Now, having all these components is fine and dandy, but you're going to need a pretty hefty power supply to power something like a 3090. an X570 motherboard with a 5900X. So that's why we've gone with the Thermaltake Toughpower GF1 750 watt. Now I know a lot of people are like, Andy, you're running a 3090, you're gonna need a little bit more power than that. But you do have to remember we're going mini ITX, so we can bring that back down and be a little bit more conservative. The reason we chose this power supply, firstly, fully modular, which is definitely handy when you're doing a mini ITX build, as well as having a gold rating, 10-year warranty, and the typical 100% Japanese capacitors and all that other wonderful stuff that you'd be looking for in a decent power supply. Now, having all these components, obviously we need to put it into a pretty banging case, and that is where the Tower 100 comes in. It is available in black or white, so you get a little bit of a preference there. It has immense amounts of airflow on the top, down the side, at the bottom, even at the front. But it doesn't just stop there. It has tempered glass galore. We've got 2 small panels around the side, 1 large panel on the front. So if you're really looking for something that's a bit of a showstopper, this is going to be the case for you. And it's pretty damn affordable as well. Also, when you look at the size of the components you can actually fit inside this, you're not going to have any trouble fitting the largest graphics cards, sort of medium to large size power supplies, and even, as I mentioned, stupidly sized CPU coolers. So with all the parts out of the way, really, I guess we need to get to building so we can actually see exactly how things are going to perform. Let's get to it. So game-wise, we took it to the extreme and back again. We had everything at 4K and maxed out to show you what things would really be like if you wanted the best of the best. While some games were lower than the magical 60 FPS number, a small tweak of the settings, including ray tracing where applicable, ambient occlusion and other lighting effects, would see huge jumps in frame rates without sacrificing those all-important, beautiful visuals. I know, I want to make this clear, at the moment, getting hold of certain hardware like the GPU and the CPU are tough. Things can only get better though, and they are kind of slowly trickling through the supply chain. So bear with everyone, it will get better. The RTX 3090 inside this system, the beast of it, is the gaming OC from Gigabyte, and it really is that sweet sort of middle ground of having great acoustics and temperatures without spending stupid money on AORUS, Strix or Kingpin cards that you just don't, well, need for the average consumer. Now, speaking of temperatures, the Ryzen 9 5900X held its own under the mammoth Dark Rock Pro 4 cooler at a comfortable 75.3 degrees during a prolonged gaming session, while the RTX 3090 Gaming OC stayed below 78 degrees, which is perfectly acceptable if you ask me. Wasn't too noisy either, to be fair. I mean, have a listen. Not too bad. Now, whether you're a gamer or a streamer, this rig is perfect, featuring the latest NVMe encoder, tons of cores and threads for pretty much anything you throw at it, blistering fast NVMe storage from Seagate, and that all-important 4400 MHz AORUS memory. The Tower 100, as mentioned, comes in black or white, and definitely sets a standard for small form factor cases, allowing the largest GPUs, CPU coolers, and larger power supplies, and all for a pretty decent price too, at $89 in the US, £89 in the UK for the black one, and 10 more for the Snow White. Personally, I prefer this one. If you had a bit more budget, I'd definitely be looking to add a bit, a few more lights by changing out the top fan for something with a bit more colour, even if it is just setting it to a solid white LED, which I honestly think would look pretty decent inside this one. It just, bouncing down off the CPU cooler, beautiful. Maybe even adding a LED strip or two, again, if your budget allows, but to be honest, if you're building a system with a 5900X 4400 MHz memory, 2 TB of Gen 4 storage and an RTX 3090, I don't think really budget comes into it much, does it? So yeah, there you have it. Obviously, this build wouldn't have even been possible without the eTeknix toolkit, available and stored at eTeknix.com. Shameless plug, I know. But let me know in the comments section below, are you a fan of small form factor builds? It just goes to show you can fit pretty much the most extreme parts inside something much, much smaller than your average computer. And yeah, let me know what's your go-to game at the moment as well, and what GPU CPU combo are you rocking at the moment. So let us know in the comments section below. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, you know exactly what to do, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.